Abish, this help. Today's daf is daf Samach Gimel, and today's daf is daf Samach Gimel. Hello, Sheldon. We're just beginning. So today's daf is daf Lamed Gimel, and we're discussing. Let's say where we up to. We're Samach Beis, Lamed Beis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the wide lines. So basically, what we're discussing an interesting question over here. The question is like this: we know a man can make a shliach, and a woman can make a shliach. A man makes a shliach lahaylacha to bring the get, and a woman makes a shliach to accept the get. The Gemara's question is like this: a man could make another man a shliach lahaylacha. Let's get the words. Haylacha means to bring the get. A woman could make another woman to be the shliach l'kabbalah, to be her messenger to accept the get. So it's gender, the same gender. The question is, can a man make a woman to be a shliach l'halacha, and can a woman make a man to be the shliach l'kabbalah? Maybe the Torah specifically only wanted the man and the woman to pick a shliach of their same gender. So the Gemara says, Toshma, come in here. Hiskabel, that's Gemara's question. Ish l'kabbalah or ish l'halacha mai? A man to be the shliach for the woman, to accept the get, or a woman to be the one to bring the get. Is that a good shlichus? Is that a good? Can she become a get? Can she become a shliach? Tashma, come in here. That's the Mishnah. A man said to another man, accept this get on behalf of my wife, or deliver this get to my wife. If the husband wants to retract, he can retract. But if the woman would say to the same man, I want you to be the one to accept my get, so then that man becomes a shliach l'kabbalah. If the husband wants to retract, he cannot retract. So my love, doesn't this mean b'chat shliach? Doesn't the Mishnah is talking about the same individual that the man is making a shliach, could be the same individual that the woman's making a shliach. So if it's a man, if the man is using a male, the woman can also use a male. Ushmami, from here we see kosher lahaylacha, kosher lahaykabbala. In other words, whoever is kosher to bring a get, let's say a male, could also be
accepted.
Accept the get. It could be a male. She could hire a male to accept the get.
I can accept it.
The Gemara Loit 9 b'shnei shlichin. It's not the same person. A man will only make a man to be a shliach, and a woman can only make a woman to be a shliach. It's no proof from the Mishnah. Doesn't have to be learned this way. Tashma, come in here. Lefichach im amaloi habal. If the husband said, in other words, a woman, a shliach came, and he said that the woman sent me to accept the get. And the husband says to the shliach, I don't want you to accept the get. First deliver it to her and then give her the get. I don't want you to accept the get. So in that case, if the husband wants to retract, yachzar, he can be retract. So v'hacha over here had the shliachu. It's the same shliach because you're taking the shliach who was initially a shliach l'kabbalah and turning him into a shliach l'kabbalah, shliach l'haylacha. Ushmami no. So here we see kosher l'kabbalah. If let's say if it was a female who was trying to accept the get, kosher halacha, she could also be the one to bring a get. So the Gemara says, you're right. That proves it. That a man could hire a woman to be his shliach to bring a get. That's shoit mina. Ish have a shliach lekabbalah. An ish could be a shliach to accept the get. Shekain av mekabel gita leget lebita knana. Because the father could accept the get for his daughter. So we see that if she sent a man to be a shliach, he could turn it around and tell that shliach, you're no more shliach l'kabbalah, you're becoming a shliach l'haylacha. But the question is the other case. Can a man hire a woman to be a shliach? Okay, a woman could hire a man to be a shliach l'kabbalah, but can a woman hire? Can a man hire a woman to be a shliach? My Omar Ramari said, Toshma, come in here. Af hanoshim. There are some women. We will not trust them if they go over to a woman and said, your husband died. because these women hate the woman that they're saying testimony for. Let's say a mother-in-law comes to her daughter-in-law and says, "Oh, my son died, and you can get married." We won't believe her because maybe she just wants to get her daughter-in-law in trouble by getting her to marry somebody else and have mamzerim. So we won't believe her. But ne'emanes lahavi eskita. But a mother-in-law could be trusted to bring a get. V'hasam halachi, and there we're talking about bringing a get. So we see a woman could be a shliach lahalacha. Amar Rav Ashi Misefer Nami Shmamina. From the end of the Mishnah, you also see it. The Ketani we learned in the end of our parak. Isha atzma mevieskita. A woman herself could bring her own get, even though it's not going to take effective when she received it from her husband, or as long as the husband made a condition that she should take it to Eretz Yisrael and then say b'fani nechtem, and then the get will become effective. So we see a woman could become her own shliach lahalacha. So that's a proof. The woman herself can receive a get and go and say b'fani nechtem, and make the get a valid get. So we see from here that vaikmina b'halacha, that a woman could be a shliach lahalacha. Shmamina, it's a good proof. So the Gemara comes out that you don't have to have the same gender. A man can make a woman a shliach lahalacha, and a woman can make a man as a shliach lakabala. Okay, new Gemara. Itmar, we learned in a case like this. Now here you have the whole cup. Gemara, there's a famous Gemara in Masechta Baba Basra where it says that if a man wants to hire workers, and let's say he makes a shliach and says, "I'm hiring these workers. I'm going to pay them six zuzim, 6 zuzim an hour," and the shliach goes to the workers and says, "Oh, the man wants to hire you for 4 zuzim an hour," and the workers say, "Oh, whatever he said." What does that mean? Does that mean that they trusted the shliach, that they agreed to be hired for 4 zuzim an hour, or they did not trust the shliach, and really what they meant to say is, "We don't trust you, but whatever he truly said, that's what we want to be. We want to be hired by 6 zuzim an hour." So the Gemara has that question. Do you trust him when they said, "We want to do what your mashaleach said"? For Itmar, a similar case. Listen to the similar case. A woman said to her shliach, "Haveli gita, I want you to become a shliach lahalacha." In other words, go to my husband and bring me the get. So maybe my husband will make you a shliach lahalacha. The ishtacha amra, but the but when he goes to the husband, he doesn't say, "I'm a shliach lahalacha." He says, "Your wife said I should be hiskaba ligit. I should be a shliach lekabala." So he changed it around with what the woman actually said, what she wanted him to become. So who Amar, and he doesn't know. He says, "Hey, lech kamash Amar, here it is, and you become a shliach whatever she said." So Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Abavu, Amar Rav Nachman said in this case, Afili higia get liyada, even if the get eventually ends up in the woman's hands, ain't mugareshes, is not mugareshes. So that's very strange. Why is he not mugareshes? The husband wants to give her a get, she wants to receive a get. So why would she not be mugareshes? A very strange question. So it must be shmamina adibidure didei kosamach, that the husband relied on the words of the shliach. And therefore, he's thinking that this is a shliach lakabala. So therefore, the husband's not making him a shliach lahalacha. And really, he is not a shliach lakabala because the woman only wanted him to be a shliach lahalacha. So he's in limbo. He's not a shliach lakabala because he was not hired by the woman. He's not a shliach lahalacha because he was not hired by the man. Therefore, it's not mugareshes. So even if he eventually turns around and brings it to her, he was never made a shliach by the husband to become a shliach lahalacha because he relied on his words. His words said, "I am a shliach lakabala." Because if he relied on what he said, "I'm a shliach lakabala." Michimati gita liyada miya tigarish. At least, at the very least, when the get reaches her hand, she should be megreshus. In other words, he's relying on what she originally said, which is that she wants him to be a shliach lahaylacha. So if she gets the get, she should be megreshus. The fact that Rav Nachman says she's not megreshus is because of the biur didei kasamach, and he never made him a shliach lahaylacha, and he's not a shliach lakabbalah. Amar Rav Ashi said, hachi hashta. That's not the reason. You can't compare, and you can't be medayek for Rav Nachman's words that because he said Einu Megareshus, that's why it's because he relied on his words, on the shliach's word. You can't say that because now we go to Samach Gimel Amar Aleph. If it would say the opposite, what would it say? If she said to the guy, the woman said to the shliach, "Hiskabeli gitli, you should be my shliach lekabbalah." And he goes to the husband and says, "Oh, your wife said I should be a shliach lahaylacha. V'ishticha amar haveli giti." The wife said I should be a shliach lahaylacha. Who amar? And he said, "Hey lech k'maysham, you should be like whatever she said." And on this, Rav Nachman would have said, "Rav Nachman Rav Amaral, even she gave get liyadim mugarashes. As soon as the get reaches the shliach's hands, it's mugarashes. Why? Because he's gonna, when the husband doesn't really believe him, the husband wants to believe that whatever she originally said, that he should be a shliach Kabbalah, that's what he agrees that this man should be. And therefore, since they both, the husband and the wife, agree that this person should be a shliach Kabbalah, from here we can deduce that Rav Nachman has when you're not sure, you adibura dido kasamach. He is not relying on the shliach's words. He's going back on her words, and her words was that she should be a shliach Kabbalah, and he agrees with that. That's if Rav Nachman said that as soon as the get reaches the hand of the shliach, he's megreshus. Inami, if Rav Nachman would have said liyada, that the get is not a get until it reaches her hand, that means he doesn't. When he says you should be like what she said, it means that he's saying you should be whatever you said. I trust in you that you're saying that you're only a shliach lahaylacha, and therefore the get is not a valid get until it reaches the woman's hand. So we'll say adiburi didei kasamach. So in those situations, you could prove either adiburi dida or adiburi didei. Is he relying on what he's the shliach is saying, or he's relying on what she's saying? Fine, then you can prove. But here's the point. The point is that now that Rav Nachman said Einu Megareshus by the original case. What was the original case? The woman said, "I want you to be a shliach lahaylacha." He goes to the husband and says, "I'm a shliach lekabbalah," and he says to the shliach, "You should be whatever she wanted you to be." Rav Nachman said she's not Megareshus. It's not because he's relying on him. There's another reason why he's not Megareshus. She's not Megareshus, is because she wanted him, the shliach, to be originally a shliach lakabbalah. By shliach lahaylacha. She originally wanted him to be a shliach lahaylacha. By him changing it and saying, "I only want to be a shliach lakabbalah," he's basically saying, "I don't want to be a shliach at all." Because even if he would say, "I want you to be a shliach lahaylacha," like my wife said, but you're basically saying you don't want to be a shliach lahaylacha because it's a big tircha to go back. Now you have to give the get to her. You only wanted to be a shliach lakabbalah, so you don't want to be a shliach at all, and that's why it's not mugareshes. That's what he says. He invalidated his whole shliach. The Amma, he said, after she wanted him to be a shliach lahaylacha, she goes to the husband and said, "Shliach lekabbalah avina. I'm a shliach lekabbalah. Lahaylacha lahavina. I don't want to be a shliach lahaylacha." So by saying that, he disqualified himself from being a shliach at all. Oh, in this case, of course, it's Einu Megareshus, but you don't have a proof whether adiburi dida, adiburi didei. Here, it's simply because he disqualified himself from being a shliach at all, and that's why Rav Nachman said Einu Megareshus. Now the Gemara is just going to ask a question. Let us say, even if he invalidated himself as a shliach, But now that he goes ahead and eventually gives the get to her, why don't we say she's mugareshes? The fact is that he wants to divorce her. She wants to accept the get. And the question was whether he was meant to be a shliach or not meant to be a shliach, but the shliach ended up in her hand. It's because, so therefore, why don't we say that you mugareshes? That's the Gemara's question now. Amar Avuna, Tashma, come in here. Someone says, Hiskabel get zel ishti. When someone says to a man, accept this get for my wife. Well, that's not a good, you can't tell somebody, accept this get for my wife if my wife did not make you a shliach. Or if a person says, hoylech get zel ishti, or he tells the shliach, deliver this get to my wife. He can retract because the wife did not make this person a shliach. Tama de rotza, only because he wants to retract. Holoi rotza. If he doesn't want to retract, have a get. It's a good get. So the question of the Gemara is, why is that a good get? You used the wrong language. You said his kabel gets li ishti. You said to the man, be a shliach lakabala. Well, the husband cannot make a shliach lakabala. Only the wife can make a shliach lakabala. But the reason why it's a good get is because we're going to understand that he really wants to give a get, so we'll make it work. Why is it a good get? This person, this number one person where he called him, you should be a shliach lakabala, cannot be a shliach lakabala. A husband cannot make someone a shliach lakabala. Ella amrina, we say, Haven shenosan einav legarsha, since he decided to divorce her. Meima Ara, he's saying Tigarish kol heicha de megarsha. He means to say that she should be mugareshes no matter what. Hachaname, so also over here, Kevin shenosan einav legarsha, meima Amar Tigarish heicha de megarsha. In Rav Nachman's case, the fact is that the husband wants to give her a get. The woman wants to accept the get. The question is whether he's a shliach or not, or he wanted to be a shliach. The understanding is that it should work because the fact that the eyes of the husband is to make her a get and she wants to accept the get, why shouldn't it work? So the Gemara says, Hachihashta, how can you compare? Hasam, over there, in the case of when a person says to shliach, you should be a shliach lakabala, he doesn't have his language correct. Adam Yadeh, everybody knows she'ein l'shliach lakabala. You can't make, a husband cannot make someone a shliach lakabala. So what he meant to say is, Begam Avanasan, he meant that in his mind, l'shem halacha, that she should be he should be a get to bring the get to her, even though he used the wrong language. Hacha over here, he made a mistake because originally the wife wanted him to be a shliach lahalacha. He goes over to the husband and switches it around. He says, I'm a shliach lakabala. And the husband, thinking that he's a shliach lakabala, right? Thinking that he's a shliach lakabala, believes him and does not make him a shliach lahalacha. And therefore, because he didn't make him a shliach at all, lahalacha, that's why it's not a good get in our case. Or even the way Rav Ashi explained it, not only did he not make himself a shliach, the shliach said, I'm a shliach lakabala, he's basically implying, I don't want to be a shliach at all. I only want to be a shliach lakabala and not a shliach lahalacha. So therefore, that's why it's not a good get in Rav Nachman's case. Amar Rava, two more things. Amar Rava said, Tashma, come in here. Kitana she'amra, a woman who is under bas mitzvah, she says to a shliach, you be my shliach, hiskabel li giti. You should accept my get. Eina get, she cannot make a shliach. Eina get, achigia get liada. Even if he goes to the husband, and accepts the get is not valid until it reaches back to the hands of the katana. But once the get reaches the hands of the katana, Mia Magarsha, you would agree that she's Mugareshes. Va'amai, says the Gemara. She is not, the Gemara's question is, the best way to read it, it ain't cotton a shliach. A cotton cannot make a shliach. So how is this person who was made a shliach lekabala by the woman, now all of a sudden become a shliach to bring the get to her? El Amrinin, so because we say, Kivin Shenosav Einav Lagarsha, since we know the husband wants to give her a divorce, so we let it work because the fact is that the husband wants to give her a divorce. She wants to accept the divorce, so I don't care if there's a good shliach or not. At the end of the day, what's the bottom line? Everybody wants a divorce here. So Hachinami, in the case of Rav Nachman's case, Kivin Shenosav Einav Lagarsha, since He wants to give her a divorce. She wants to accept the divorce. Meima Amar, why don't we say Tigarsh Kehechel called the Megarsha, that she should become a Megreshes no matter what, even if he's a Shliach or not a Shliach. So why did Rav Nachman say it's not Mugareshes? So the Gemara says again, Hachi Hashta. Hatham, by the case of the Katan, when the husband receives the Shliach of the Katan, everybody knows Shlichus the Katan, that this Katan Shliach, this Katana Shlichus, this Shliach la Kabbalah from the Katana is not worth anything. So he said to this man, you can't be a Shliach la Kabbalah because my wife is a Katana. Therefore, I'm turning you around and making you a Shliach la Halacha. Hacha over here, he's making a mistake. He's thinking, the way we initially understand Rav Nachman, is that he's thinking that this person is a shliach la-Kabbalah. Really, the wife made him a shliach la-Halacha. He comes to the husband and says, I'm a shliach la-Kabbalah. And the husband thinks he's a shliach la-Kabbalah, so he does not make him a shliach la-Halacha. Therefore, if he's not a shliach la-Halacha, and he's not a shliach la-Kabbalah, therefore, it's not a good get. One more thing. Tashma, come in here. Havi li get v'ishtecha amre hiskaba li geta. A woman said, bring me my get. He said to the shliach, bring me my get. And so he goes to the husband, the shliach goes to the husband and lies, turns it around. He says, I'm a shliach la-Kabbalah. Ishtecha amre, your wife said, hiskaba li geta, I should accept the get. Or the opposite case. The woman wants him to be a shliach la-Kabbalah, hiskaba li geta, and he goes to the husband and says, I'm a shliach la-Halacha. V'ishtecha amar hava li geta. V'hu amar, and he says, hoylech v'tein la. Go give it to her. Deliver it to her. Zechila, acquire it for her. Hiskabala, or accept it on her. Rotza lachs, if he wants to retract, yachzar. He could retract because they become a shliach la-Halacha. Mishagia get liyada mugareshes, but once the get reaches her hands, mugareshes. My love, wouldn't you understand this? Kabbalah akabbalah v'halacha halacha. That he said that. Let's take a typical case. Let's take the case that he says I'm a shliach la Kabbalah, and he said, if you're a shliach la Kabbalah, I want you to be a shliach la Kabbalah. Well, he's not a shliach la Kabbalah because he was originally a shliach la halacha. He lied and said I'm a shliach la Kabbalah. The husband says, okay, I believe you. You're a shliach la Kabbalah, and I'm saying you should be a shliach la Kabbalah. And nevertheless, we say it's a good get. So therefore, here we have a brisa that seems to contradict Rav Nachman, and saying that you will be a good get. So the Gemara says, no, you missed it wrong. He's saying the word Kabbalah when she says the word halacha. When he said the word halacha, in other words, the woman made the shliach a shliach lekabbalah. He lied and said, I'm a shliach lahalacha. The husband said, you should be a shliach lekabbalah. So he basically agreed with his wife. That's why it's a good get. That's why it's a good shliach, because he's agreeing with his wife. V'halacha akabbalah. If she said, you're halacha, bring me the get. She lied and said, I'm a shliach lekabbalah. He said, you should be a shliach lahalacha. So since he is agreeing with his wife, he is a shliach lahalacha. So it's not a question against Rav Nachman, because he's basically agreeing with what his wife assigned this person. But the only problem is, if his wife assigned this person as in the first case, if the wife assigned this person as a shliach la-Kabbalah, he lied and says, I'm a shliach lahalacha. But the husband said, I want you to be a shliach la-Kabbalah. So he's agreeing with his wife's original assignment that this person is shliach la-Kabbalah. Then why is it that she only becomes mugareshes only when it reaches her hand? She should be megreshes right away when it reaches the shliach's hand. That's Gemara's question. I Kabbalah ahaylacha mikimote gita liyade la'alta lahav gita. Right away, he should be a get because he's really a shliach la-Kabbalah, and the husband says you should be a shliach la-Kabbalah. Shmami not that deburu diktekosavach. So you're going to prove from here that he doesn't trust what he's only relying on what he's saying. If he's saying I'm a shliach la-Halacha, that's what the husband wants him to be. So Gemara says no. Hashi hasha, that's not true. Hasam ka'amale helech k'moisha amra. In the original case, he's saying I want you to be like what my wife wanted you to be. So therefore, you have to go back to what his wife wanted him to be, and therefore, it's not a good get because he cannot make a shliach la-Kabbalah. Hacha over here, did he say, I want you to be like what my wife wanted you to be? Here
That,
he said, I want you to be what you said you are. So here he said, I want you to be with what you said you are. If you said you're a shliach leilacha, then I agree with that. So therefore, it's not a good scenario. Very hard, different Gemara, back and forth, but let's move on. Tana Rabbanim. Two more pieces of Gemara, and then we'll stop. Tana Rabbanim. Here's a new. Here we have this familiar machlokes. When a person uses the word hoylech, deliver a get to my wife, does that mean that the shliach, does hoylech mean acquire something? Does hoylech mean that it doesn't take effect until the person gets it, or does hoylech mean you acquired on his behalf? The only thing by get, it doesn't work when you say hoylech because it's detrimental. But if a person will say hoylech mana leplani, deliver this money to somebody, maybe the person, the shliach, already accepted it on behalf of the recipient, and therefore there's no retraction. So we're going to have a machlokes between Tanoim what the din of the word hoylech is. Tana Rabbanim. If a man said to a shliach, hiskabali gite, accept the get on my wife's behalf. And the wife said, I want this person to be my shliach lakabala. So she agreed. And he said, deliver it. He turned it around. The wife said, I want this person to be a shliach lakabala. And he said, deliver it and give it to her. Or he said, acquire it for her. If he wants to retract, he cannot retract. Because since he said, I want the get. And he said the word hoylech. Hoylech is the equivalent of him saying, hoylech, deliver and acquire it on behalf of my wife. And therefore, hoylech is kizchi. That's the opinion of the Tanakama. Rab Nosson says, hoylech v'senlo, rotza lachzor, yachzor. If he could, because by him saying deliver it, he's like taking away that this person becoming a shliach l'kabbalah. He's saying that you're not a shliach l'kabbalah, you're a shliach l'hoylacha, because the word hoylech, deliver it, means don't acquire it, only deliver it, and only then when she receives it, that's when it becomes a get. And therefore, if he wants to retract, he could retract. Zechela v'skabala, but if he said acquired, if he said the word zechela or v'skabala, then he said explicitly acquire it, rotza lachsa lo yachsa, then he cannot retract. Rab Nosson holds hoylech is lav kischi. Hoylech is not like acquiring it. Rabbi agrees with the Tanakama. Bekulan ratzalachsa liachsa. Every time he wants to retract, we don't allow him to retract because the word hoylech means acquired on behalf of my wife. And if the wife agreed that he should acquire it, the shliach should acquire it, then there's no backseas. Once you give it to the shliach, no retraction. But if the husband said, I don't want you to be a shliach l'kabbalah, so now I want you to deliver it and give it to her. So in this context, hoylech is not kizchi. In this context, hoylech means actually deliver it and only then have it take effect once the get reaches her hand. So therefore, ratzalachsa, as long as it didn't reach her hand, if he wants to retract, yachzor, he could retract. So the Gemara says, so we have two opinions, basically. Rebbe, which is the Tanakama, who hold hoylech kizchi. So that's questions. Rebbe Hainu Tanakama, is Rebbe repeating what the Tanakama said? If you want, I can tell you. Rebbe is just telling you another point, that if the normally hoylech is kizchi, but if the context is that he says, I don't want you to be a shliach l'kabbalah, in that scenario, hoylech will be lav kizchi. If you want, I can tell you just simply that the Brisa is just saying, man Tanakama, you want to know who the author of the Tanakama is? Rebbe. So basically, you have a machlokes between Rebbe or the Tanakama, which is the same person, and Rabbi Nosson. If a person says hoylech, the word hoylech means deliver it. Does that mean accept it and acquire it? That's the opinion of the Tanakama. Rab Nosson says, no, hoylech means delivering it. Delivering it, don't acquire it, just deliver the message. So now the question is, even Rab Nosson, hoylech means deliver it. But what happens, ibaylo heilich l'Rab Nosson, kizchidami or live kizchidami? If you say to a person, heilich, here it is, take it. So maybe, is that like acquiring it? Or maybe Rab Nosson still will say that's not kizchidami. Tashma, that's our Mishnah. Man says that I want you to bring this get to my wife, deliver it to my wife. Then as long as he wants to retract, he could retract. But but if the woman said to that same person, I want you to be a shliach l'kabbalah, ratza laksa lo yachsa. If he wants to retract, then he cannot retract. That means that if what the Gemara's understanding is that a woman said to a man, to a shliach, be my shliach l'kabbalah, and the man said haylech, and the Gemara is going to say, maybe he meant to say haylech gatzel ishti. So haylech, if you garris that in the Mishnah, if the Mishnah said haylech, well, haylech gets a ishti, and she wants him to be a kabbalah, so that it works. Haylech kizchi. That's the Gemara say. We go to Amud Beis. My love, behaylech Rab Nassan. Maybe our Mishnah means haylech, and it goes according to Rab Nassan, and it's teaching you haylech is different than haylech. Haylech means lav kizchi, but haylech means acquire it. The Gemara says like the girsa of our Mishnah is haylech for Rebbe. Our Mishnah's girsa is haylech, and if as long as she didn't make him a shliach l'kabbalah, so it's detrimental. So even though normally you say hoylech gizchi, but since it's detrimental, it wouldn't be a get until she actually receives it. But if she made a shliach l'kabbalah and he said hoylech, then he cannot retract. Toshma coming here. Lafichach im amalei habali after shetikabala el hoylech v'tenlo rotz lachsa yaksar. If the husband says, I don't want you to accept the get, if he told the shliach l'kabbalah, don't accept the get, don't be a shliach l'kabbalah, be a hoylech type of get, shliach, so then it's no good. It's only because he said iyavshi, so he uprooted what he originally was, a shliach l'kabbalah. But if he did not uproot it, and he just said haylech, but the Gemara is going to say ba'la behaylech Rab Nassan, he said the word haylech, and Rab Nassan, so the Gemara says no, behaylech v'Rebbe. To Rab Tashma coming here, and this is where the Gemara is going to end. Haylech getzel ishti. A man said, bring this get to deliver this get to my wife. Ratza lachsa yachsa. He could always retract. Haylech getzel ishti. Ratza lachsa lo yachsa. If he said haylech, then he cannot retract. Man shamet le dabama b'hoylech rotza lachsa yachsa. If you can retract, even though it's a shliach l'kabbalah, because this is what you have to say, it's a shliach l'kabbalah. Hoylech is lav kiski. The author of this brisa is Rab Nassan. The Ka'ama, and the brisa continues and says, but if you say the word haylech to a shliach l'kabbalah, then it's like kiski. Rotza lachsa lo yachta shma mino. According to Rab Nassan, haylech kizi shma mino is a good proof. Okay, one more piece, and then we'll stop. Itmar we learned before. Again, we're discussing over here, what is this language hoylech? Hoylech means deliver it, or the hoylech means deliver it and acquire it at the same time. So we learned in a teaching. The woman sent a person to be a shliach l'kabbalah, and he went to the husband and said, I'm a shliach l'kabbalah. And he says, okay, you're a shliach l'kabbalah, hoylech v'tenlo, go deliver it to her. Now, if you hold hoylech is kizchi, then it's then right away, as soon as the shliach gets the get in his hand, she's mugareshes. But Rav said it's not so fast. Amar Rabba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav, Nasha shlichai. He becomes his shliach lahaylacha ushlicha and a shliach l'kabbalah. I'm not sure is hoylech kizchi or hoylech lavs kizli, and therefore the choyletzis. We're not sure if she gets a get, if this is a good get, and therefore if the husband died before she received the get, she would go fall to chalitza as if she still is married to the guy. Lememra, would you say the Mesafke Leila Rav? Rav had a doubt. Rav had a doubt if the word hoylech means kizchi or not. For itma, we learned if a borrower said to a shliach, hoylech mona leploni, here's $100 and give it to my lender. Shani chayev loy, because I owe this money to him. And he said the word hoylech. So the shliach accepts it on behalf of the lender. Amarav chayev be'achriyose. If the shliach loses it, the borrower has to repay the lender. Because the lender did not make this guy the shliach, it's only the borrower made the shliach. So the borrower still is responsible to get the lender the money. But in balaksa, but if the borrower wants to call back the shliach after he gave him the money, ein a chayzer, he cannot call him back. Because as soon as he said to the shliach, hoylech monolaploini, deliver this money, well, the shliach accepted it on the behalf of the lender, and therefore he acquired it. So even before it reaches the lender's possession, it's considered as hoylech is kischi, as if he required it on behalf of the lender. So we see that Rav is certain that hoylech is kischi. So the Gemara answers finally, Hasem Safik Mamayna L'Kulam. When we're dealing with mamanis, then we go lenient and we say that hoylech is kischi. And therefore, we don't give the borrower the right to recall the shliach after he said hoylech mana l'ploni. But hacha over here, sveik isure, we're dealing with isur daireisis of eshes ish. And would a woman need to fall to yibam chalitza? L'chumar we go strict and we say that she's mugareshes and not mugareshes. And therefore, if the husband died before she actually received the get, in the case of the hoylech, we would say that she still need a chalitza. Okay, very hard Gemara today, but we'll continue Bez Hashem to tomorrow. Easier stuff.